and welcome back to the Blender for Beginners series. In this part, we're going to go over edit mode and how you can make edits to your 3D object. Without further ado, let's get started. So back in our scene, I'm going to delete our keyframes from last time. So we have our red cube here that we made. In order to do anything else with this cube, we're going to have to go into edit mode. To do that, we hit tab. And remember from last time, G to grab, R to rotate, and S to scale. When you initially tab into edit mode, your object will be selected entirely. To deselect your object, hit Alt A. Or you can double tap A and that'll deselect everything. In order to manipulate your objects, you have to be aware of 3 different manipulation types. You have vertices or vertex mode, which we're in right now. We have edge mode, and then we have face mode. Now, what are the difference between these 3 modes? There are at least 3 vertices that compose a face in 3D space. 4 vertices gives you a quad. This is what you want to consistently try to model in. You don't necessarily want to model with triangles, nor do you want to model with anything more than 4 faces. Your edges select essentially 2 vertices along the same edge. Face mode selects the 4 vertices required to construct a face. And as with everything else, you can G, R, and S each and every one of these selections. You can grab vertices, but you can't really rotate and scale vertices. So I don't really use that too much on those. To add more information to this cube, there are a few different operations you want to be aware of. You can change between the different modes by hitting 1 for vertex mode, 2 for edge mode, and 3 for face mode on the number pad or the numbers that are above the letters on your keyboard. If you have a keyboard that has a number pad, if you have to hit emulate 3-button mouse, then you'll want to select these boxes up here that have vertex, edge, and face. They're right next to the edit mode. To add more information to the cube, you'll want to be aware of a few different operations you can do. So edit mode, if I hit A to select everything and I hit Shift D to duplicate, you see we have 2 cubes here. However, both of these cubes are in the same object, and when I go back into object mode, if I hit tab again, and so they're both under this box, but they're obviously 2 separate cubes. So if you want to duplicate an object and have it be its own object, then you'll have to duplicate it in object mode. And now you see we have a separate object in our collection. So you want to be aware of that when you're duplicating. Be sure, if you want to duplicate, like the only reason we would duplicate this in edit mode is so that we could then do something like this. So we're going to select this face with right click, X, and we're going to delete the faces. I'm going to select this face with right click, we're going to hit X and delete the faces. So because we duplicated this cube, we're going to want to connect it to our original cube. And what we want to do is hit 2 to make sure we're in edge select mode. And we're going to select this bottom edge, and we're going to select this bottom edge, and then we're going to hit F. And that should basically make a face between those 2 edges. Now, you can make faces whenever you select an edge. So to reiterate, all I have to do from this point after I've connected this initial face is I can select this edge here and just hit F, and that will make faces all around those. I just have to hit F multiple times. So now if I hit A to select everything, you can see this is all one object, or it's connected now. It's still one object, but now it's a connected object. So what if you wanted to make any other edits here? Well, there's a few different tools you have in edit mode. If you hold Alt, well, first go back to edge mode. If you hold Alt and you right click along a string of edges here, you see that the entire loop is selected. So if I click Alt, if I hold Alt and right click this edge here, you'll see this entire ring of edges is selected. So if I wanted to, let's say, bevel this side here, what I want to do is select, hold Alt, right click this edge to select the whole thing, and then I would hit Control and then B, and that'll basically enable you to bevel your object. And you have a few different operations you can do with bevel. So if I Control B, see I have just the separation of the edge here into two. Well, I can use my mouse wheel to scroll up to make more edges. So I can make this as round as I want, or I can make this as segmented as I want. So it depends on the look you're going for, or what exactly you're trying to achieve. The next tool that we have is Inset. So if I hit 3, go to Face Mode, I'm going to right click and hold Shift to select these 4 faces together. Let's say I want to add additional detail here. Well, what I want to do is I want to hit I, and that has inset these faces. So as you can see, it's basically extruding the faces inside the plane so that it keeps the surface consistent, but I have more geometry. To make further edits, let's say I wanted to bring this inside. What I can do is hit E for extrude. And now, as you can see, I've extruded inward. So it's similar to inset, except you're actually moving the faces in a particular direction. So for example, an operation that I often do is I hit I for inset and then E for extrude. So you see, I inset the faces to position my extrusion where I want, and then I extrude upward to create this little block here. And then if I wanted to, I could then hit Control B to bevel. And now I have this interesting looking detail here. If you want to add an edge loop here, let's say you don't want to extrude or inset, let's say that operation would be a little tricky for this type of situation, right? So in order to just add an edge loop, you would hit Control and R. You left click, and after you left click one time, you can choose where you want to place your edge loop, so you can slide it in this direction or that direction. I'm just going to hit right click right after that, and that will just simply place our loop selection in the center. Edge loop only works along faces that are quads. So if you have a triangle, I'm just going to create a triangle example. If you have a triangle and you try to make a loop, you see the loop stops where the triangle is. Also, if you have an Ngon, after we made our bevel here, you see we have a face that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices instead of 4. This is what we call an Ngon or a nonagon. This is a polygon that basically should not be. If we hit Control R to add an edge loop all the way through here, you see we can't because we don't have a 4-facing face here, right? So be careful with that. There are ways around that. So if you wanted to fix that, you would hit Control R and put it on the side here, and that'll basically even out the number of faces that we have. So instead of 5, we have 6. And what you can do to fix that is you can select these 2 faces here and hit J, and that'll join those together. So if you do that in the front, you hit J again. Now, if I wanted to add an edge loop all the way through here, all I have to do is hit Control R, and now I can add an edge loop through here. So these are the different tools that you use when you're modeling. Generally, you're only going to use a few of them at a time, particularly depending on what it is that you're trying to make. However, I suggest taking some time and playing around with the different tools that you have. You can get a lot of interesting results with just a little bit of practice. and you know, you can start making some cool things. That's it for this part of the tutorial. In the next part, we're going to go over adding modifiers. Have a good one, everybody.